The forest was thick with shadows as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long fingers of darkness through the tangled branches. Alex, a seasoned solo hiker, pushed through the dense undergrowth, guided only by instinct and the fading light. The map in their backpack showed nothing beyond the known trails, but rumors whispered of a hidden cave somewhere deep inside these woods, a place forgotten by time, unmarked on any chart. Suddenly, Alex stumbled upon a narrow opening nestled between two ancient boulders, half hidden beneath a tangle of roots and moss. The cave entrance was small, almost as if nature itself had tried to conceal it. The jagged edges of the rock around the mouth bore strange, weathered carvings, warnings etched long ago. The symbols twisted and writhed across the stone, barely legible. Some looked like scratches, others like warnings, but curiosity pulled Alex forward. With a deep breath, Alex flicked on a flashlight and stepped into the cold, damp darkness. The air grew heavy and stale, carrying the faint scent of earth and something older, something forgotten. The beam cut through the thick shadows, illuminating rough walls that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. As Alex descended, the narrow passage began to widen, but with every step forward, the light behind seemed to dim, almost as if the cave itself was swallowing the outside world whole. Minutes stretched into an eerie silence, broken only by the soft drip of water echoing in the distance. But then, subtle changes began to unsettle Alex's nerves. The walls, once smooth and bare, were now marred by fresh scratches, deep gouges carved with frantic urgency. Strange symbols reappeared, glowing faintly with a phosphorescent blue, casting ghostly shadows that danced just beyond the flashlight's reach. A whispering wind snaked through the tunnels, but the sound was too rhythmic, too deliberate. It was almost like voices, soft, unintelligible murmurs brushing past the ears like a living breath. Alex's heart pounded louder than ever, but the urge to press on was irresistible. Rounding a sharp bend, Alex froze. Spread across the floor, illuminated by the weak light, lay a horrifying sight, a pile of human bones, fresh, as if recently left behind. The scattered remains blocked the only visible path forward. The cave seemed to close in, trapping Alex in an eternal twilight where the boundary between reality and nightmare blurred. A cold shiver crawled down Alex's spine as the whispers grew louder, no longer faint, but an urgent chorus calling from the darkness. And in that moment, the hiker realized they were no longer alone. After the chilling discovery of the bones blocking the path, Alex sat in the suffocating darkness, struggling to steady their breathing. The cave no longer felt like a place of stone and earth, it had become a living entity, pulsating with a sinister heartbeat. The whispering voices no longer stayed distant. They swirled around Alex's head, calling out names, repeating phrases in a language unknown but eerily familiar. With no other choice, Alex pressed onward, squeezing past the pile of bones into a narrower tunnel. The walls here were covered with scrawled messages, some written in desperate, shaky handwriting, others etched deeply as if by claws. Many pages from old journals and fragments of paper, soaked in grime and decay, littered the floor. Among them, Alex found a small, torn notebook. The notebook belonged to a man named Henry, an explorer who had vanished in the cave decades ago. Flicking through the brittle pages, Alex read Henry's frantic scribbles describing how the cave seemed to shift and change with his every move, trapping him in a labyrinth without end. Henry's last entry chilled Alex to the bone: "It's awake. It watches. The walls speak, and the darkness breathes." Suddenly, the beam of Alex's flashlight flickered, and the cave shifted, walls appeared where there had been none, passages twisted impossibly, and the air grew heavier, colder. The whispers transformed into clear voices, repeating Alex's own thoughts, mocking every fear, every doubt. The cave was alive with memory, echoes of the lost souls who had wandered too far, trapped forever in its endless maze. A chilling realization dawned: this cave was no mere hollow in the earth. It was a prison. And the prisoner inside wasn't just Alex. The voices weren't echoes. They were warnings. Or worse, the cave was trying to claim a new soul. The flashlight died, plunging Alex into complete darkness. The last thing they heard was a whisper, "Welcome back." The flashlight flickered back to life, casting weak light on the cold, damp walls. Alex's hands trembled as they wiped sweat from their brow. Every step deeper into the cave seemed to pull them further into a nightmare. The air thickened, smelling faintly of decay and something metallic. Ahead, the passage widened into a vast chamber. The walls were covered in strange carvings, twisted, grotesque figures half human, half insect, their limbs tangled and distorted. The images told a story of a creature that lived beneath the stone, a guardian or a monster trapped in darkness for centuries. Alex's skin crawled as an unsettling sound echoed through the chamber, a soft scratching, like dozens of tiny claws scraping against rock. They turned sharply, scanning the shadows where the light barely reached. Movement flickered in the corner of their eye. Something was there, watching. Waiting. The scratching grew louder, closer, accompanied by a wet, skittering noise. Alex's heart hammered against their ribs. The creature revealed itself slowly, an abomination with spindly legs, multiple eyes gleaming like shards of glass, and a body covered in chitinous plates. It moved unnaturally fast, darting just beyond the beam of light. Panic surged as Alex stumbled backward, knocking over loose stones. The cave seemed to respond, sealing off escape routes with shifting rock walls. The creature advanced, and the whispers from before turned into guttural growls. There was no time to think, only to run. But the cave was a maze, and the creature knew every inch. Alex's flashlight flickered and died again, plunging the chamber into darkness. The last thing heard was a chorus of skittering legs and a chilling hiss that promised this was far from over. Alex burst out of the cave's mouth, gasping for fresh air as sunlight bathed their face. Relief flooded through their body, the nightmare was finally over. But as they looked around, something felt wrong. The forest seemed different. The trees were taller, older, and the undergrowth thicker, as if years had passed in an instant. Searching for a familiar landmark, Alex's heart sank. In a clearing, a weathered bulletin board stood, plastered with faded missing person posters, dozens of them. One caught their eye. It was a picture of someone who looked exactly like Alex, dated nearly 30 years ago. Confused and terrified, Alex ran toward the nearest town. People passed by, but no one seemed to notice. They called out, but their voice felt distant, swallowed by the air. Desperation set in as Alex realized that although they hadn't aged a day, decades had slipped by without them. Trying to leave the area, Alex stumbled, blacked out, and awoke back inside the cave. The same damp walls surrounded them, but the cave was different, its passages rearranged, endless and twisting. It was a prison with no exit, a trap that bent time itself. The whispers returned, louder now, echoing through the labyrinth. The cave wasn't just a place, it was a curse, feeding off those who entered, distorting reality to keep them trapped forever. Alex's reflection in a pool of water looked unchanged, a ghost suspended in time. Panic rising, Alex moved deeper into the cave, searching desperately for a way out, but the shadows seemed to close in. Time had broken, and the cave held them prisoner, lost not only in space but in time itself. Alex's footsteps echoed softly through the twisting tunnels, each step heavy with exhaustion and dread. The cave's darkness felt thicker than ever, swallowing every flicker of light. Then, ahead, a faint shimmer caught their eye, a cavern lined with mirrors, their surfaces cracked and fogged, reflecting not just Alex's image but something far more disturbing. In each fractured reflection, a different version of Alex stared back. One was dirtier, eyes hollow and wild. Another smiled, a cruel, knowing grin that sent chills down the spine. It was as if the cave was showing Alex what had become of those trapped inside for years, or worse, what Alex might become. Heart pounding, Alex reached out to touch one mirror. The glass rippled beneath their fingers like water. Suddenly, the reflection moved independently, stepping forward and speaking in a voice both familiar and alien. "You don't belong here anymore." Panic surged. The cave demanded a sacrifice. One version of Alex could leave, but only if another stayed behind. The mirrors cracked violently, shards falling like rain, and the other Alex lunged forward, trying to pull the real Alex into the glass. A struggle began, desperate and terrifying. The cave's walls seemed to close in, the whispers now screams urging one version to replace the other. When it ended, only one Alex stumbled out of the chamber, breath ragged and eyes wild with horror. But which one was real? The survivor could no longer tell. Outside, faint voices called from deep within the cave's walls, another lost soul begging to be freed. The nightmare was far from over.